All right. Hello, all you sports fans out there in podcast land, and welcome once again to another edition of Babbling Brooks, your new favorite podcast, where I, your host Brooks, try to bring you some of today's sports news with just a little twist of my point of view. Happy hump day, all y'all out there. Hope you're having a great week so far. I enjoyed sleeping in to like 8 or 9, a couple hours more than I usually sleep, at least. So that was kind of nice. I was up early at first. I'm like, damn, am I not gonna, be able to enjoy sleeping in? I went to bed too early last night. Fucking Halloween, everybody out partying. My ass watched 2 episodes of Are You Afraid of the Dark? And I finished up watching Mission Impossible 2 for the first time in years. I honestly was watching this like, wow, I do not remember any of this shit. Whereas like the first one's so iconic, even if you go years without watching it, like the scenes, like it all comes back so quickly. But all I remember from Mission Impossible 2 was just Tom Cruise at the beginning on the side of the cliff, because that was when he started doing like crazy ass stunts and making a point of doing all the stunts himself for these like crazy feats that were happening in the Mission Impossible movies. So yeah, that was me. And then I was gonna try to watch some of the Suns and Spurs game, but man, I was already tired. I didn't feel like fighting it. I barely made it through Mission Impossible 2. I was like, man, I'm tired. It was a long work week, so I just went to sleep. And it was a good game that I missed. Apparently, I saw that the Spurs came back from down 20 points. When Victor put one in on a rebound, and then a big steal from, I think it was Keldon Johnson, just taking the ball from KD. So big win for the Spurs. Victor Wembanyama, and special player for sure. So I'm sure that Chet Holmgren and some of these other guys, maybe Brandon Miller, going to try to have something to say about him being the for sure Rookie of the Year, but definitely the front runner. Just the way he's able to move out there. If you can start drilling the ball maybe a little bit lower was one thing I heard they were saying, because he's so tall. Obviously, the ball is going to be drilled a little bit higher. But the problem with that is a lot of air for somebody to be grabbing the ball. KD, I saw the little portion of the game I watched early on. I saw KD get a steal from him. So, big win for Victor, man. They scored like 4 points, the team did, in the final few seconds. So, big comeback. But here today, mostly is going to be, it's a football episode, y'all. And we'll call it a wrap-up Wednesday, if you will. Barely kind of went into the Panthers' first win of the season yesterday. So, talk a little bit more about that and sort of go game by game along the lines of the most recent week of NFL action, what happened, and all that. Of course, the Panthers super excited to get the win. Got to appreciate Frank Reich in the day after comments being like, oh, it's still the same. Victory Monday's good. Better mood, I'm sure, but you're still trying to get better. You're still trying to learn and grow and all that good shit. So you like to hear that, and you could tell it felt like he was able to see the game a little better, which was one of my predictions for him giving up the play calling. Well, everyone looked at it like, oh no, his job could be in jeopardy because why do you need it? I'm like, well, the head coach doesn't always call the plays. Yeah, you got guys like Andy Reid, who's done it for a long fucking time. He's a legend. But it's not always like that. And some players, especially when you got like a guy in Frank Reich who's only had one little small tenure so far as a head coach in the NFL in his first year with a new organization. And I felt like it would happen, and the game management did look better in this game because he's able to look at more parts of the game as it's happening. He's not always having to constantly plan, and be thinking about what plays to pick. Which obviously there's ways to balance that, and there are a lot of coaches who do call plays and do that. But I think it works best sometimes with that head coach when you can, especially someone that's not got like the years and years and years and years of head coaching experience of someone like Andy Reid. Like he's still kind of learning, and you can just have a better look. Like it was like Steve Smith Sr. was talking, I think, on his podcast about how, it's like coach is like a CEO. That was one of the reasons that they hired Frank Reich was David Tepper really liked, David Tepper and the people interviewed him really liked that Frank Reich seemed like as the head coach CEO that he was really cut out for that, and like running the team and just having an eye for all of it. So just because he's an offensive-minded coach, don't mean he can't see some shit on defense, especially and even on special teams. And just able to manage the game overall instead of having to focus on one specific part of the game. And you've got a dude in Thomas Brown who is more than capable. Probably going to be first year, not first year. He'll be a first year head coach at some point because when he's a head coach, he'll be a first year. So I would say within the next few years, he'll be a head coach somewhere. He has that opportunity. And the play calling wasn't nothing drastic difference. You can look. There was a couple more yards average per play, so that's good. Going from like 5-something to 7-something. And we'll see going forward how it works out. Now, like I've said all along, this team is almost for sure not going to win a Super Bowl. But they can still win the division, or at the very least, like last year, have a respectable season. And, even if we don't go to the playoffs, which I say don't rule out, man, because this division's not good. Yeah, with the Saints, Derek Carr did finally look a little better. It looked like he was starting to click with his receivers, so that could be dangerous for us. But who's also clicking? Bryce fucking Young. And he's been getting better. Like, a lot of people, you just hearing, the negative, oh, he's terrible, they should have picked C.J. Stroud. And like I keep saying, I think both these dudes are going to have incredible NFL careers. I don't think it would have been a bad pick to pick either one. Those were the two quarterbacks I was pretty much for sure on. If we draft either one of them, they're going to be good. C.J. Stroud, I felt like, and it has shown, was more ready maybe to day one, week one, be ready to go. But Bryce Young is, after some struggles early on, has kept getting better week to week, kept his head up, hasn't let the losing get him down, has won over the locker room. I believe that's important and shows that he's, doing some things right behind the scenes, because NFL players don't just get behind and support anybody just for the hell of it. You got a rookie quarterback that you feel like is holding you back, or you feel like is acting a certain type of way that you don't like. You're not going to might not fully believe in him probably. You're not less likely to be fully invested, but you can tell. Bryce Young is becoming a leader on this team, even in year one. And it's another leader on this team, Adam Theilen. It's been incredible what he's had. He's leading the league. He has 70 targets and zero drops. No one in the NFL this season has more targets without a drop than Adam Theilen. Trying to have another Pro Bowl season when people thought he was done. So that was a great move, getting him to have a reliable veteran for Bryce Young to throw the ball to, and had 82 yards, including the most important catch he made on a 4th and 2. Even though Miles Sanders, I guess, somehow ran the wrong route and was coming at him, almost could have caught it too. And that was, so definitely Adam Thielen looking like the best free agent pickup for this Panthers team, because Hayden Hurst still disappeared. That's why I was kind of surprised he wasn't traded, honestly, as little as they've been using him. And it doesn't seem like he's really been injured. At least with Miles Sanders, you can factor in, okay, well, he's been hurt off and on since the preseason. So maybe that factors into his lack of involvement. And he had 0 yards in this game. 0 fucking yards, which really surprised me. I knew he was coming off an injury, but I thought he'd get something going. Chuba wasn't much better. But the fact that they kept feeding the ball to Chuba and not giving it to Miles Sanders at all makes you feel like they're, kind of souring on Miles Sanders, which is a shame because we gave him a pretty damn decent amount of money. Things keep up, they might just cut him to save money. I just thought we'd see more out of him. And, game balls, I saw, Tommy Tremble. We talked about Hayden Hurst. Tommy Tremble getting a touchdown catch of this one. Seems to be really trending in the right direction. Jonathan Mingo, Bryce Young's fellow rookie, brought in this year the same draft class with him. It seems their rapport is growing. He seems to be improving. And that could be very good news for this Panthers team future. You got Adam Thielen for now. But Adam Thielen's not going to be around for more than a couple of years. Let's face it. But Jonathan Mingo, if you can get the connection with him and Bryce Young, clicking early on in their careers this year number one, could be a good sign for the future of Jonathan Mingo. I mean, for the future of this team with Jonathan Mingo catching passes from Bryce Young for a long time, foreseeable future. So really good to see that clicking. I think he had 4 catches for 62 yards. One of them was a 40-yard catch. Only one, had 5 targets. And taking advantage of those targets, Chua, 26 yards. So did Raheem Blackshear. Good to see him, even though he only had 3 carries for 5 yards. Good to see Raheem Blackshear getting some work, averaging 13 yards on his receptions. So not, the running game wasn't really going anywhere, but they found ways to get it done. Bryce Young completing, 5 out of 6 passes on that drive that led to the Eddie Pinheiro field goal. Eddie Pinheiro also getting one of the game balls. And I appreciate them showing love to the guys, but I'm like, man, there's a lot of game balls. It's like 3, I guess, for each phase of the team. But I can see that. You want to show some appreciation to your guys when you get a W with Eddie Pinheiro getting one of the special team balls. And a player who I thought would make an impact that, didn't get a chance to do it in the way I sort of was mentioning. But Amir Barno, second-year player out of Virginia Tech, has shown some really cool flashes last couple years. It was a rookie last year, of course. And he's super fast coming off the edge, mostly playing on special teams now, but doing what he needs, doing what needs to be done. He received one of the special teams game balls, so good for him, as well as a cornerback named Boodle, his last name. Then on offense, of course, Bryce Young, Thomas Brown, offensive coordinator, getting one, Jonathan Mingo, and of course Adam Theilen was 72, not 82 yards. For Adam Theilen. The longest was a 31-yard. DJ Chark had a 20-yard catch, 2 of his catches in this one. So definitely, there's been some encouraging things building up under the surface. And now that we got that first win, man, just like it's a different feel. It's like some hope has been like reignited in the hearts and helms of Panthers fans everywhere. And some fans were disappointed we didn't make any moves. I don't really know what they expected to happen. Dante Jackson got one of the game balls, too. The defense one was Dante Jackson, Frankie Louvu, and Derek Brown. I mean, Brian Burns would have been close, but Derek Brown just making an impact, swatting the ball down. Frankie Louvu just all over the place, it feels like, constantly near the ball. Him and Brian Burns both got sacks in this one. And Dante Jackson, man, forcing that fumble. Xavier Woods ended up recovering. And good to see Dante Jackson doing some stuff. And I'm glad we didn't trade him, because it would have felt like, honestly, I think we would have ended up just giving him away. Like, we wouldn't have. Everyone says we need to build up some draft picks, but the only player that would have really gotten us like enough draft picks to really move the needle would have been Bryce Young. Not Bryce Young, sorry. Brian Burns. Getting my B's wrong. Brian Burns. And even those first round picks would have been great. But for next year, it would have pretty much been a second-round pick, because it would probably be going to the Niners or somebody who's going to go far this season. Even though, we'll talk more about it in a minute. The Niners struggling a little bit right now. Doesn't mean it's going to continue. Especially, they got a young. Maybe that's what I was thinking, Chase Young. Because he got traded from one of the 2 defensive ends that Washington traded. The other's Montez Sweat, went to the Bears. Chase Young joining up with Nick Bosa and those guys there in Santa Clara with the 49ers. But I'm glad, Brian Burns, we didn't trade him. As long as you got to make sure now that you sign Brian Burns. You got to pay this man in the offseason, because if you let him walk away after not trading him, last year it would have been a couple first-round picks. Probably could have got something similar this year. And, that's when it becomes a regret. If you let him leave for nothing and you just get, that conditional pick, then it's a fuck up and see ya, Scott Fitterer. But hopefully we find a way. I believe we can still find a way to keep him, and we better, because I'm glad we didn't trade Brian Burns. But the second part of that is to keep him, to pay the man, to pay the damn dude, because he's an amazing dude. He's super. I love his interviews. Great personality. Seems like he'd be a really interesting guy to talk to, and just puts it all out there on the field, man. The other team has to double team and scheme towards him, so sometimes the numbers aren't always there. Got a sack in this one, getting some tackles, but the offense has to go out of their way to plan with Brian Burns. It gives other players a chance to do their thing. Maybe someone else can emerge as a little surprise on this defense due to the fact that Brian Burns is getting so much, attention from the offensive coaching staff and the players. And then you look at, what Derek Brown has been able to do, having a big leap forward this season. It's been a lovely thing to see. And that this team has a lot of potential, man. This year isn't the year, but we get a couple pieces. I feel like one of the things they really got to focus on in the offseason, I know it's early to talk about the offseason, but they're going to have to go out there and spend some money on the offensive line. For the most part, they stood pat. In this past offseason, they knew they would have Austin Corbett coming back from injury, which finally happened in this game. And he showed how important he can be to this team, while Ike Ekwonu continued to struggle. And, it seemed like having a sophomore slump. Super talented, though, and can still bounce back. But the Panthers mostly stood pat because the offensive line was a strength last season. But still, feeling with everything they did, you trade all that to get a new quarterback at number 1 in the NFL draft. Like, it's err on the side of caution and get some extra guys. Pay some guys, pay some dudes to get in there and protect your investment. Because that's what it is at this point for the owner of the Panthers, David Tepper. It's an investment. Trading all those picks because you think that Bryce Young is going to pay off. And I believe he will. But they're going to have to get him some better blocking. Because he's taking a lot of hits. And you look how big Cam Newton was. Because I'm not talking about like a size thing with Bryce being smaller. I'm not going to have that bias as a littler guy than Bryce Young. But Cam Newton took a lot of hits. Cam Newton was a big dude. He was big as some of these linebackers that are hitting him. And it still wore him down through his career. He still should be in the NFL. I don't know if you're the Vikings or maybe the Rams, if Matthew Stafford's going to miss some time. I would seriously consider getting Cam Newton a fucking call. Because the Carolina Panthers, specifically, I'm pretty sure under the orders of Matt Rule, believe it was his decision-making at quarterback during that time. I can't wait to play with Cam Newton, just like a lying youth pastor. And then Cam ends up getting cut. We get nothing for Cam Newton. We end up getting more for Kyle Allen in a trade than we did for Cam Newton. One of the best player, not say one of, the best player in Carolina Panthers history. Without a doubt. Put Cam Newton in the Hall of Fame. Stats, may not be as crazy as some people's, but he changed the game. You look how different things are. And he did it while not getting the benefit of a lot of calls that quarterbacks get. Because he was so big and such an athlete that, they'd be like, oh, well, you got to hit him sometimes. So he was getting rough in the passer calls, or not getting them, for years at a time. Maybe race was a factor that has been thrown out there. Probably at least somewhat, even if it's subconsciously. You look at all the other stuff with the NFL. But maybe even the Niners, man. The Niners should bring in Cam. They got Sam Darnold, though, so I don't think they want to do that to Sam Darnold. But yeah, the Panthers did Cam Newton dirty into his career. And then it kind of threw him off. Could never get quite right with New England between COVID and everything else. And it's just, some guys aren't going to fit in with the Patriots. And Cam Newton's one of those guys, probably. But he did his damnedest, man. He worked hard. And, I wouldn't want, say bring him in for Bryce Young now because Bryce Young's doing great. Or not great, but getting there. Doing good now, at least. Best game of his career. Ends up with his first career victory. But, yeah, Cam Newton probably should be at least given the opportunity to play somewhere. You look at all these injuries around the league. If he wants it, he should. That's how I feel. Cam Newton, even though I say the best Panther of all time, it's probably my second favorite because Steve Smith going to be my favorite Panther just because growing up watching him. And, I always pictured myself more as a receiver than a quarterback, even though I never actually played organized football. But, in my imagination, I was an outfielder. I was a shortstop usually. Usually a shortstop in baseball. And in football, it'd be like receiver / cornerback. I wanted to be Dion. White Dion, white prime time. Fox News, just kidding. I did not want to be on Fox News. But either way, if I lose, the babble's about to keep going too long. But yeah, great win for the Panthers. Yeah, it's only the Texans, but C.J. Stroud has had a good year. And I still think Ike Ekwonu can bounce back from these struggles. We saw how talented he was. North Carolina State looked really good at times last year. Yeah, there were some struggles, some growing pains, but he's still kind of a project. Still very, very young, like the fourth youngest player on this team, I believe. So he's still coming along, still got some time to figure it out. You don't want to freak out just yet, Panthers fan, and like give up on him. But you want to see some improvement. And regardless, it feels like, offensive line is one of those positions, or really either one of the lines, because that's just the trenches, offensive or defensive line, but especially offensive line, because you're trying to protect your quarterback, who usually, on most teams, not yet for the Panthers, but eventually, the highest paid person on your team. A lot of times going to be that franchise quarterback. So you need to protect that investment. And injuries are going to happen. It's football. Like, it's a miracle there aren't more injuries as much. It's just, literally the whole point is to smash the shit out of whoever has the ball or whoever's protecting the guy with the ball. So you're going to have some injuries, especially on your offensive and defensive lines. So you've got to have some depth, some guys you can rotate in there, someone that can step up and step in when inevitably someone goes down, because it's going to happen. It sucks, but it's a part of football. You're literally just hitting each other. But, like I said, overall, very good Panthers win. See how we can do. I think we keep the winning streak, or start a winning streak. I guess it's a one-game winning streak now, so continue the winning streak next week when the Colts come to town. Gardner Minshew has been a player that can step up in such situations, and Jonathan Taylor has been getting better, after his slow return, coming back from not playing initially to begin the season, being on the unable to perform list for the first 4 weeks. And so it's not going to be easy, but I think the way that they were already trending upward and finally getting over that hump, coming out the bye week, getting win number 1, they will follow that up with win number 2. We'll talk more about that here in a couple days. We'll try to keep it up with the Football Friday episode where we will look at Week 9's action. And, of course, talk about the first game of Week 9, which happens tomorrow night with Monday Night Football. Titans and Steelers, baby. But let's talk about Week 8 first. Of course, we already talked a little bit about the Bills barely beating the Buccaneers, but they still beat them, so we appreciate it. But the Bills still feel like they're in trouble. There's people saying they should fire Sean McDermott, hire an offensive-minded coach. I don't know about that. I got a bias for Sean McDermott. He was our defensive coordinator, did a really good job helping take us to that Super Bowl 2015. But I really feel like they probably need a new coordinator. And hiring an offensive, and if they fail this year, then maybe, depending on how they fail, you talk about Sean McDermott being gone. But ever since Brian Daboll left to go coach the Giants a couple years ago, they've not been the same. Now they got Ken Dorsey, offensive coordinator, and he's okay, but he just doesn't really inspire a lot of excitement for me. I guess he was our quarterback coach, I think coordinator for the Panthers at some point. So many coaches at some point it blurs together. Regardless, though, the Bills, man, it feels like they need to step up. But they got the win, so that was good enough. The Jaguars beating the Steelers 20-10. The big thing in this one, Kenny Pickett for the Steelers out. Looks like he will not be starting on, not going to be playing on Thursday night tonight for football. So it'll be Mitch Trubisky coming back. But big game for Trevor Lawrence, man. It's 5 wins in the month of October for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Started out 1-2. Just like that, they're 6-2, baby. So hey, that's our fellow expansion team. Never a rival. Cool with some cool cats. Some cool with those cool cats. Cruising on through that AFC South. But hey, man, the Tennessee Titans, told y'all they got the win, 28-23. Will Levis surprising me, though. Talk about how he was the one player I did not want the Panthers to draft, especially at number 1. He had himself a game, including 47-yard touchdown pass to DeAndre Hopkins in the first quarter. Another pass, 16 yards in the second quarter to DeAndre Hopkins. And in the third quarter, how about, an even bigger one, 61-yard pass from Will Levis to DeAndre Hopkins. Finally, I predicted the win, but I figured it would be more along the lines of Derrick Henry carrying this team, but he did pretty good, leading rusher in this game, 22 carries for 101 yards. But the bigger story was Will Levis, 4 touchdowns in his NFL damn debut. Look out, Ryan Tannehill. Now Ryan Tannehill potentially done. Has he thrown his last pass as a Tennessee Titan? DeAndre Hopkins, though, only 4 catches. 3 of those are touchdowns. Had a total of 128 yards. Mostly on those 3 touchdown catches. So, good to see, Titans gotta love that because it's been a quiet kind of year. Like DeAndre Hopkins not really been able to get it going. I don't know if he's not clicking with Tannehill or what. But he definitely was clicking with Will Levis in this game. That's for damn sure. So, yeah, the Titans doing a solid, and they beat the division-leading Falcons. So now I think it's a 3-way tie ahead of the Panthers in the division. So we're in this, baby. Maybe not. I don't remember what the Saints' record is, actually, as I say that. Yeah, no, it's a 2-way tie at first. The Falcons and the Saints are 4-4. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, like us, have already had a bye, so they're 3-4. Okay, so that was close. So we're only 2 games behind the Bucs, who we played 2 more times, and they've lost 3 in a row, is it now? After starting out looking like they could be all right with Baker. It's like a Baker, man. It's like you just can't consistently get wins for his teams. But it's not just him; it's the team. Fuck the Bucs, right? But, Falcons and Saints, those 2 first-place teams, are only 2.5 games ahead of the Panthers right now. So we're in this still. We ain't going nowhere, as the song says. And the story for the Falcons is Desmond Ridder, who, after showing some really nice potential early on and also near the end of last season, kind of been struggling lately. He left the game to be evaluated for a concussion. He ended up passing concussion protocol, but was not put back in the game as Taylor Heinicke, back somewhere after did some great step-up moments with the Panthers a few years ago and ended up even playing with a broken arm at one point. Then did the same thing with Washington. It always feels like he's good. He'll be like a good short-term, give you a few games here or there, but has yet to really get a chance to be like a long-term kind of guy, it feels like. But the Falcons might give him a run. He ended up, after he took over, they looked better at least. Ended up scoring, compared to 3 points in the entire first half, they scored 20 points, 14 points in the fourth quarter alone. So Heinicke only threw 1 touchdown pass, 12 of 21, 175 yards. Looks like he'll probably get the look going forward there. And I like the Panthers' chances. It's one of those teams I feel like will beat, they beat us week 1. Bryce Young is not the same damn quarterback he was week 1 in Atlanta. This game will be at home. I think, we got 3 games in a row against the NFC South coming up before too long. After these 2 in a row against the AFC South. And then a Bears game. And the Dolphins doing what I thought they would do. Patriots did not have another upset win in them. Tua Tagovailoa, no fear of Bill Belichick, is not lost to him as a quarterback starting in the NFL. Jalen Waddle taking over as the leading receiver in this one. Had 121 yards and a touchdown. Tua, 3 touchdown passes, 324 yards. Threw an interception. But you can do that when you throw 3 touchdowns. And most start getting a touchdown run as well. Tyreek got the scoring started in the first for the Dolphins after they went down 7-0. But after that, it was a 31-10 game for the Miami Dolphins. And they are 6-2 right now, sitting on top of their division. And, they still got the Bills to contend with. And if you're, looking at the Jets, Aaron Rodgers is walking around. He could be playing in a few weeks somehow. So doing, some ayahuasca, I guess, helps you heal quicker. Who knows? But it's looking like a fun stretch of season there. I mean, the Dolphins still looking like, right now, maybe the best team in the AFC. As we'll talk more about the Chiefs and how bad things look for them. The Jets in the Battle of Jersey went in 13-10 in overtime, and what everybody said was an ugly game. Not pretty at all. Instead of 2 teams playing like they're both home teams, you had 2 teams playing like they're both the visitors, and they're, the 2 teams, of course, that share that stadium in the Meadowlands, New Jersey. But struggle with the Jets, man. Tyrod Taylor ended up going to the hospital. They're expecting, I think he's going to be okay, but Daniel Jones probably back soon. it seems like. Also a big injury in the Cowboys' 43-20 beatdown of the Los Angeles Rams. Matthew Stafford got a finger injury hitting as he was throwing a pass out on the follow through, hitting a defensive lineman like the side of his helmet. So he's got a finger fracture, going to be out for a minute. Dak Prescott threw 4 touchdown passes in this one. So, Cowboys, they're like, hey, y'all remember, we used to be America's team. We still think we are. We still plan on playing like it. Big game for Dak. CeeDee Lamb had two of those 4 touchdown catches. 12 receptions for 58 yards for CeeDee Lamb. And rough game for the Rams. They couldn't get even Nakoa, who's the rookie that's been playing incredible. Had some, yards that you ain't seen since Randy Moss kind of thing as a rookie. But without Matthew Stafford, I don't know who's going to be throwing the ball to him. Mark Ripken's son, Brett Ripken, or maybe his nephew or something. They're related though. Remember the quarterback back when Washington won the Super Bowl back in the day. One of those guys. And yeah, like a rough game, man. Like they had their leading rusher was Freeman. Royce Freeman had 44 yards. Did have a touchdown to give him credit, but only one. And then their leading receiver, 3 receptions for 54 yards. That was their running back, Darrell Henderson Jr. So that's a rough one when you get injury to your top, your star rookie receiver that's been having an incredibly surprising season, and then Matthew Stafford gone. So maybe they bring somebody in. You still can't forget Cam Newton. That'd be a nice place to have him out there. Have him in L.A., baby. See, on to the next game. But yeah, big game for the Cowboys. They got a pick 6 too in this one. He had Dayron Bland, 30-yard interception return for a touchdown. So turning defense into offense, man. Yeah, the only touchdown pass that Stafford threw went to a guy named Ben Skowronek, who I've never heard of. So there you go. That's fun. Even had a safety in this one. And on to the next game. Vikings taking down the Packers in Green Bay 24-10. But in the process, they lose Kirk Cousins for the season. Maybe forever. He tore his ACL. That's a rough injury to have, especially at this point in his career. But he has been healthy mostly, so hopefully he'll be able to come back through it. He's had a nice season, despite all, dealing with injuries to their top receiver and Justin Jefferson. Adam Theilen out too, who's been a nice steady piece for them. And he threw 2 touchdown passes before going out in this one, so that helped a lot. But it wasn't until the third quarter. But nobody scored in the fourth quarter. 270 yards and 2 touchdowns. And, Madison, had only 31 yards. KJ Osborne, there, 99 yards. Good job for him stepping up. But that's just a rough one for the Vikings, man. They did trade for Dobbs, I think it was, from the Cardinals, who, looked all right in a couple games. Got them 1 win, but struggled otherwise. So we'll see what they do, man. They're still, could still make a run in their division. But the Lions got the upper hand there for the most part. But they're only a couple games out. So there's plenty of time to make up those 2 games. But get Kirk Cousins, quarterback who's the main reason they're even able to be in games for the most part. Like it's hard to see them really being able to compete. And it feels like a really good thing for the Lions. Like they, the NFC North is their division to lose at this point. It already kind of was, but with Kirk Cousins out the picture, it feels even more so. So, big win for the Vikings. We'll see if the loss isn't too much to counter. And the Colts, man, letting me down against our NFC rival, the hated Aints, them damn Saints out in New Orleans, going up to Indianapolis and finally looking pretty damn good at offense. 38-27 win. Alvin Kamara has kind of been clicking, even though this game the leading rusher was Taysom Hill, had 63 yards and 2 touchdowns. Like, man, I hope that's the thing with him. And the Panthers have struggled to do anything with Taysom Hill. But I guess when they call those plays, it's like he just finds ways. Derek Carr threw a couple touchdown passes, 310 yards, including 3 receptions to, Rashid Shaheed. I was like, I don't see his first name. Rashid Shaheed had 153 yards receptions in this game on only 3 catches. 3 catches, including was a 58-yard touchdown pass in the second quarter. So you're letting us down, Colts, man. I thought We needed y'all to win. But still, the Saints are not first place. They're just tied with the Falcons. So, but the fact that Derek Carr starting to get maybe click with his receivers a little more could be dangerous and give probably unbiasedly the Saints probably the most likely team, like removing any sort of bias out, to win the division if Derek Carr continues to play like this. Just because the Panthers, 2.5 games, but that can be tough to overcome if the other team wins more than you. But we'll see what happens though, man. If Bryce Young, I feel like is good enough to do it, but it's going to be tough to win the division at this point. It's mostly about making it respectable for the Panthers after that terrible start, and you just can't have the worst record in the league. And you got to get out of that top 5 of the draft. It'd be nice to get out of the top 10. You don't want to give the Bears too good a pick. But hey, man, good job for Derek Carr. Hopefully it won't keep happening. I've been surprised Jamal Williams hasn't done more for them. I still wish we could have signed him, even though what he's done there hasn't shown that. Still, what he did last year, he could still do that, and maybe could have been different. It'd been cheaper than Miles Sanders. That's for damn sure. And let's see, how about the Eagles? Another close game against the Commanders. It took to overtime. The first game they played in Philadelphia this year. This one in Washington. The Eagles win 38-31. Not a defensive special in this game. Included 21 points for the Eagles in the fourth quarter. The game was tied at 17 at the end of the third quarter. Talk about a different game in the fourth quarter, man. You're from tied at 17 to 14. The Washington scored 14 points, and the Eagles scored 21 points in just the fourth quarter. So that score looks like it could be its own game almost. Final score 21-14. But Sam Howell, man, despite the loss, people were saying, hey, we need to get rid of Sam Howell, give up on Sam Howell. Fuck Eric Bieniemy, fuck Ron Rivera, but they played pretty damn respectable, man, against probably the best team in the NFC right now, in the Philadelphia Eagles. Sam Howell took him 52 attempts, but ends up with 397 yards and 4 touchdown passes to only 1 interception. Definitely would not have saw him matching Jalen Hurts' touchdown total and outdoing him when it comes to passes. Yeah, it took a few more, 10 more completions and 14 more attempts. But 319 yards for Hurts. But he still had 4 touchdowns and gets the win in the end. He got a little help. Swift ran for a touchdown, while no running touchdowns in this one for Washington. Robinson led them with 59 yards. And how about A.J. Brown? 130 yards on only 8 receptions and 2 touchdowns. What a season. Definitely looking like Offensive Player of the Year. Keeps this shit up, he might win MVP. And, no slacking for Dotson, the lead receiver for Washington. Also turned 8 receptions into 108 yards and a touchdown. So, gives Washington fans some hope after some rough games. That's a nice one. It's a loss, so you don't like it. But, it definitely is a respectable loss. So there you go, Ron. Cools his seat down maybe just a little bit. Maybe Eric Bieniemy could coach the Bills. If the offense continues to look good under Eric Bieniemy down the stretch, if he doesn't get promoted in Washington and get Ron Rivera's job, which is a possibility. I could even see Ron Rivera stepping aside. He's done it for a while now. And then, maybe the Bills, if things don't go their way, they go calling him and hope he can bring some of that Andy Reid magic to the offense up there in Buffalo. Still think it would have been a terrible idea to bring him in anyway, because things in the last couple of years, Ken Dorsey's just kind of so-so. And on the road, the Browns coming up short against the Seahawks. Seahawks getting the win 24-20. They were down until 38 seconds left. Jackson Smith-Njigba, I think. 9-yard touchdown pass from Geno Smith. And good, P.J. Walker's yards were decent, not the best percentage, but threw a touchdown, but also threw 2 interceptions. So did Geno Smith. So this is not a pretty game. This is a defensive game, but good, Seahawks getting the win. Jamal Adams helping out some on the defensive side, obviously, with them. Now that the big thing about this win is it's a missed opportunity for the Browns, man, because it feels like they need to get as many wins as they can in that AFC North. And for the Seahawks, it puts them in first place thanks to the 49ers losing to the Bengals. So that's bad. Both of those things are bad for the Browns. Or not the NFC West part, but, if the they lost at the same time the Bengals won, which means that while the Seahawks pass the 49ers to go to first place in the NFC West, in the AFC North, now Cleveland, instead of being on their own in second place, only a half a game behind the first place Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson, they're in a three-way tie with the rest of the division. Pittsburgh, after the loss, 4-3 as well. Cincinnati, after the rough start. Joe Burrow looking really good right now, and they're all 4-3. And the Ravens did their part, but, it was a lot tougher battle of the birds than it looked like it was going to be. I thought they were going to destroy the Arizona Cardinals, but the Arizona Cardinals put up a damn fight. Dobbs on his way out, 208 yards, 2 touchdowns, also threw 2 interceptions. Big reason they lost. The Ravens defense coming alive lately. But Gus Edwards, 3 rushing touchdowns on only 80 yards. Lamar Jackson only threw 1 touchdown pass to Mark Andrews. So quiet game for Lamar Jackson after having a big one the week before. But does what needs to be done. Leading the drives that are enough, man. But they almost let this one get away. They were up 21-7. I don't know if they just kind of took their foot off the gas in a little bit. The Cardinals being the home team or what. But they let it get a little too close there. They got within 6 points at one point there. Or no, 9 points, whatever. And that was about it, though. Then the 7 points again. They got the 10 points in a row to close out the game. But Cardinals ran out of time on that comeback. So Ravens just keep winning, man. 6-2. Could, get themselves in that conversation to be one of the top teams in the AFC. Jacksonville also 6-2. They've won 5 in a row. I feel like right now you would give the upper hand to the Dolphins and the Jaguars. But, man, you can't just count having Lamar Jackson, the way he's been able to play, showing you, hey, man, I deserve this damn money. And then he's got, even though he hasn't done much, Odell Beckham Jr., I still think potentially could, can go off. Can be a big player, especially longer on in the season as he continues to get healthier, I believe, from his offseason injuries. And then Kansas City is also 6-2. But, y'all, they lost to the Broncos 24-9. It was in Denver. And maybe the big factor of this is, I didn't realize at first, Patrick Mahomes was sick, maybe some kind of flu leading up to the game. So he probably, definitely wasn't full strength. And that's the thing. Sometimes, man, these division games, these division rivalries can seem like, oh, this is obviously going to go this way. And those are the teams most likely to upset you, especially if you get them a home game. And it's just crazy to think the team that allowed 70 points just a few weeks ago held the Kansas City Chiefs, Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce and company to only 9 fucking points. 24-9. My friend Zach's the one that let me know about the Panthers and had won. When I got off work, I saw his text before I saw the ESPN notification. And I had to congratulate him for the win. I needed Taylor to go to some more damn games, I guess. But yeah, the Chiefs, man, never really doing much in this one. They got a only field goal in the first quarter. They didn't score any in the second half. All they had was 3 just field goals. It's not a common thing where Patrick Mahomes going to throw 2 interceptions and zero touchdown passes. It's one thing to have an interception alongside your touchdown pass, but to none. So hopefully for the Chiefs, this is an aberration. But it just shows it's hard to win 2 in a row. But even despite this, and they've struggled, it seems like they had some barely there kind of wins even this year. So maybe this shouldn't be as surprising as it is. But they're still 6-2. And as long as it's, not like long COVID or something, Patrick Mahomes should be fine for next week. It's not an injury. Just seems like a kind of little bug he had. Maybe he got just sick for a bit. That happens a lot this time of year when the temperature starts to, drops all of a sudden, kind of fluctuates, at least here a little bit. In Kansas City, I bet it's got cold all of a sudden. So maybe it's related to that. It's probably some flu going around with the weather change. It was supposed to snow for this game. It didn't. looks like. But I know Mike Florio was complaining. It's like, where's the snow? Big win for the Broncos, and probably not going to play in the playoffs, but I mean, it's definitely more likely than it was. You look around the league, like they could insert themselves in a wild card situation. Probably not going to happen, but still, like if you're a Broncos fan, when a couple weeks ago it looked like they might go winless, and now you're only half a game out of second place in your division, 3 games out of first, which is not insurmountable, especially with some of the weaknesses the Chiefs have shown. But I think the Chiefs, still going to be a playoff team, still going to win this division. Like any of the mistakes or stuff, it seems like they can fix. So I wouldn't be too worried if I'm a Chiefs fan. But I mean, it's tough to win 2 in a row. Though. It's tough to be a dynasty. Like that's what I've been saying about the Nuggets. But he's saying they're going to repeat. And the same with the Chiefs, man. It's hard. Everybody's coming for you. There's a lot of talent. You look at Tua. You look at Lamar in this same conference. And what Trevor Lawrence is doing there, too. Look out. Another team that's got to look out. The 49ers lost 3 games in a row. And they fell out of first place in their division, like we mentioned earlier with the Seahawks win. But they're going to get Deebo Samuel back. Hopefully Brock Purdy reverts to what he was. A lot of people calling it kind of, reality check. Coming back to earth for Brock Purdy, putting too much on him, being forced into mistakes more than he was. 2 interceptions in this one. Ended up being the leading rusher. It's never a good thing on a team that has Christian McCaffrey when Brock Purdy, the quarterback, is the leading rusher. George Kittle, though, 9 receptions for 149 yards, is the bright spot in this one. And despite the 2 interceptions, Purdy threw a touchdown to McCaffrey. He had 365 yards, so he's not like he's not putting up stats. He's still putting up yards. He's just making some mistakes. And McCaffrey, I think, will get closer to full health soon. And they're also going to get Deebo Samuel back probably the next couple of weeks. They just added Chase Young to their defense for just like a mid-round draft pick. So that can hurt. And right now, man, I think this game is more about the Bengals than it is about the 49ers. Because these Cincinnati Bengals are surging after a slow start. Joe Burrow threw 3 touchdowns, including 1 to Jamar Chase, who had 100 yards receiving on 10 receptions. Joe Burrow threw for 283 yards in this one. Joe Mixon, 87 yards, ran for a touchdown. Like, this is about the Bengals, man. They're trying to be catching up with them Ravens in the AFC North, man. They could do it. Burrow was playing, hurt a little bit there early on, looking pretty damn healthy now. Speaking of healthy, Bears still without Justin Fields, and Badgett had a good game. Coming out his first one, couldn't beat Colorado School of the Mines, but getting a win in the NFL. Week 2, kind of back to earth, 232 yards still, but 2 interceptions compared to 298 yards and 3 touchdowns for Justin Herbert. Austin Eckler only ran for 29 yards, but he had 7 catches for 94 yards and a touchdown. So Bears, that's why even with Justin Fields, I think the Panthers can beat the Bears in Chicago here in a couple weeks. But big win for the Chargers. I feel like they needed some positive stuff. If they lose this one at home in prime time, you got to think there's going to be some calls for Staley's job. He's supposed to be a defensive-minded coach. You couldn't even stop this undrafted rookie. But the Chargers coming out strong, man. 24 points in the first half alone. So it was like 24-7 first half. In the second half, both teams scored exactly 6 points. So kind of slowed down, but good job for the Chargers. And, of course, the Lions beating the Raiders. No surprise there. The only surprise in this game is that it was close. Because it was in Detroit. Lions just got their ass kicked by the Ravens. You knew they were going to get a bounce back. And they did, but just not quite the way you thought they would. It was a lot of Jamar Gibbs. 26 carries, 152 yards for the touchdown. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 6 catches for 108 yards. That was a big chunk of Jared Goff's 272-yard game. Jimmy Garoppolo did end up playing, but didn't do too much. 126 yards, threw an interception. Josh Jacobs was the leading receiver with 27 yards on 2 catches. 15 carries for 61 yards and a touchdown. But I didn't get to watch this game. I was at the Hawks game. But a lot of people were saying that it wasn't as close as the score portended. that it wasn't that close. But still a good win for the Lions. And after this loss, of course, the Raiders firing their GM. They fired their head coach, Josh McDaniels. Second time he's gotten fired halfway through his second season. It also happened with his failed run there with the Denver Broncos a few years back. That was the Tim Tebow years. Really funny SNL sketch from that time with Tim Tebow. But either way, and so see, I guess it'd be good news for Patriots fans. They could get their offensive coordinator back because their offense has not been the same without Josh McDaniels. So it looks like he's just the guy that's just going to be an offensive coordinator. Because every time you put him in charge of a team, like there may be promising stretches, but never really seems to work out. You know, the Colts, he just rescinded his accepting the job offer and went back to the Patriots. And I mean, I don't know if you want to give him a chance again. Like, it's one thing to get fired twice, but you get fired twice at that particular time, like a year and a half into your tenure, I mean, it's showing that you're not, you're something ain't right. So a lot of moves, and they also fired the offensive coordinator. I think their quarterback coach is going to do the play calling now. The big surprise to me, the Raiders, isn't that they fired the coaches. They didn't trade Devontae Adams, so he's just got to sit there and be terrible. I mean, maybe they release him and he gets a chance to go somewhere, but sucks for him, man. He came there to play with Derek Carr and go to his hometown team. Then Derek Carr gets benched and let go or traded, whatever. And Devontae Adams had like one catch in this one. So it's rough. So people want to talk about, battle Brock Purdy and comparing him to Jimmy Garoppolo. Garoppolo's not doing great either right now. And I think Purdy can still correct some of that, especially when he gets his team more full strength. And the good thing with the 49ers about losing 3 games in a row is at least they had already won 5 in a row. So that's, I guess I should rephrase that. The good thing about winning the first 5 games of the season, it gives you a little flexibility, and you can handle a couple losses. It's like the other night with the Hawks. When they got up by like double digits, it was okay when the Wolves scored occasionally. Whereas early, when you're trying to make a comeback, you can't let that other team score. So yeah, in the American Football Conference right now, Miami, Baltimore, Jacksonville, and Kansas City are all on top of their divisions. Buffalo is the only second-place team that's within a game. I already mentioned the AFC North. You got 3 teams tied at 4-3 at second place. Feels like the AFC South is pretty much the Jaguars because second place right now is the Titans and the Texans, both with rookie quarterbacks. I mean, Will Levis looked good in that 1 week. But if DeAndre Hopkins can carry that connection over to the next game, then and going forward, then maybe they can make a run. But I just feel like when you got 2 rookies going up against someone, Trevor Lawrence, now he's got that experience, been through what they're through. I think that's the Jaguars division. And I still think it's the Chiefs division in the West, still 2.5 up on the Chargers. The Raiders, I don't think are going to do anything. I think the Nuggets, the Broncos are going to make it respectable maybe, but I wouldn't expect them to go on a big run. I think this was a 1-game kind of thing. It was more about being like a one-time energy, as well as you combine the fact with the home team, it's a rival. They hadn't won in 17 games against the Chiefs, so they were kind of due. And then you catch him on a day when Patrick Mahomes is far less than 100% health-wise. Even if he was feeling somewhat over the flu stuff, whatever, that leaves, even when you're not sick anymore, it still leaves that lingering effect where you're tired, you're weak, not able to put in work throughout the week like he would like, I'm sure. So I think they'll bounce back. And in the National Football Conference, we got Philadelphia, best team, I think without a doubt right now in the NFC. You could say a little bit closer than they'd like it to be with Washington. So maybe the Cowboys they're a competitor for that. The 5-2, some of the big games they've had. The Lions, you ignore getting their ass kicked by the Ravens, who are a really damn good team, and maybe you put them in that conversation, but they're definitely not out of it though. And then you got the NFC West, where I still think the 49ers can be one of the best teams in this conference, maybe the league. But lately they have not played that way. 3 losses in a row. A lot of time to correct the ship. They're only a half a game behind the Seahawks. And it's not like, doesn't look like the Rams are going to compete. The Cardinals are even more lost than the Panthers, even though we have the same, almost the same record. The Cardinals are half a game worse because they've lost 1 more game than the Panthers. But if Matthew Stafford is out for the Rams, mean that they're done. Like, who's, especially Brett Ripien going to take them on a run. No offense to him, but I don't see that happening. I still think the 49ers win that division. And the South, it's just a mess. You got two teams at 4-4, another team at 3-4, and then a 1-6 team that is not technically out of it. But I still think, I think it's going to be the Eagles and the Lions. Hopefully the Panthers, and then the 49ers win the divisions in there. And hey, I'm going to get out of here, man. That was twice as long as my episodes have been lately. I've been trying to do 30-minute episodes, but when you go game by game and try to cover a bunch of shit, sometimes it takes a while. So thank you for listening. Hopefully somebody still is. Hope y'all have a great day. Check back tomorrow. I'm going to watch the Hawks game tonight. Hopefully we can keep the winning streak going and get 3 in a row. As we got, who is it coming to town? I'm forgetting already. I know it. It's the Wizards. That's right. Yeah, I think we can win this one, man. We're 2-2. They're 1-2. Jordan Poole, damn good player. But, at times, he can really go off. Maybe they see when there's like some baddies sitting courtside, which there very well could be here in Atlanta. Could be some baddies. He could end up getting, could lead to him having a better game. But I think the Hawks are going to keep the good vibes going, maybe. They're not going to harsh Armello. They get the win tonight. And that's what I'll be talking about tomorrow, so tune in for that. And then probably at the next day, Friday, going to keep the Football Friday tradition going and preview Week 9 in the NFL. So I hope y'all have a great day. Check back for more of your new favorite podcast, Babbling Brooks. Subscribe on Spotify so you don't miss a babble, baby. And, having said all that, Babbling Brooks signing the fuck off. Peace out.